morning, good morning. Hope you're doing well this morning. Gonna do some more watercolor painting today. We're gonna continue to kind of play with these wildflower ideas that I shared with you yesterday. Good morning, Ada. So this is kind of where we're going. This piece is not finished. I'm gonna add some more layers to it, but this is kind of in the direction that we're gonna be moving today. Here's another one that I've got in the works. Again, this piece also is not finished, but you can just see I've added more layers and I've kind of done a little bit more on the direction of getting to where we're trying to go. So today we're going to do some layers with some green. Going to start to fill in some of the background. There's still layers to do on these flowers, I would say. This one definitely, potentially these guys. We're going to just start to work with some greens. Here's something I would say that is important as you begin to kind of get your palette ready for green and the greens that you're going to be working with. You want to make sure that you have several greens. So sometimes people will just kind of fall into, I've got green here, that's all I need, just one green. So I'll just show you my palette here. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. We're back. So just here's my palette, and you can see some of the colors of green. I've got like kind of a very light green, almost like a grass green. This is kind of an in-between, a darker. I've got a brown over here and some blacks, and I'm going to be using yellow as well today, most likely. So that's kind of the palette that I'm going to be working with, and I'm going to be using two brushes today. So I've got my what I would call my number 8 round, and then I've got this other brush, which is kind of a fine line brush that I'll use. You can see I've modified this guy so it fits more comfortably into my hand. So let's go ahead and get started. Gonna get my palette there ready. Got my water. All right, I'm gonna start with this kind of bunch of flowers up here. I'm gonna use my fine liner, and I'm gonna use a darker green for this guy. So I'm gonna go to my darkest green, bring some water there. I use the bigger brush just to kind of get the water, because it'll bring a lot of water to where I need it a little bit earlier. And now I'm going to go for my fine liner. I like to wet the fine liner just so that I can get that brush tip to a nice sharp point. And I'm going to come back again to that really dark green. I'm going to begin up here at the top, and I'm just imagining, so each one of these little flowers kind of has like a little connection point there, and then I'm just going to imagine that the stem of that is going to just travel all the way through this guy. So I'm just going to carry this one most of the way down. Where it encounters another flower, I'm just going to have it kind of go behind that, and keeping in mind too that I can make that stem thicker if I need to. Right now it's very thin, so I'm just going to go and thicken up that line just a little bit, and also that I can make it darker if I decide to do that later. And I'm even going to carry this stem down behind these other flowers that I've got there. I'll probably bring it all the way down eventually. So once I've got that established, I'm just going to kind of touch some green on what I would call maybe like the base of these little flowers, and I'm just going to bring those flowers over to that central stem. That's kind of where I imagine that they're all they're all growing out of that one stem, that first stem that I made. I might add just a couple of little other like branches coming off of this stem, just for kind of a visual effect. And I might even go back and add some leaves, but you can see now I'm just kind of creating, like I say, the base of the flower, and then connecting that flower to that original stem that I created. So you can see, I'm going to connect this guy here. Again, we spoke yesterday about the artist who does this. She goes by, I don't have the card that I made yesterday that shared her information, but on Instagram she's at August Wren, W-R-E-N. And I was saying yesterday in the tutorial that I'm pretty sure she probably studies, she probably, goes out and gets a bouquet of flowers or picks a bouquet of flowers, and then from those bouquets she kind of creates these little, they're like landscapes but with flowers. They're really nice little still life pieces. So you can see I've used that darker green, and I've kind of created that. I'm going to continue because I've got that darker green kind of going already. I'm just going to bring that stem. I'm going to imagine that it's coming all the way through this whole bouquet of flowers. Still working with that fine line brush. I'm going to carry that stem all the way down. I'm going to make it get a little bit thicker as it gets closer to the bottom, but I'm still using kind of that same color, and just going to bring that all the way down. All right, now I'm going to do, so I'm going to come over to this other little section here, this reddish section there, and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just going to use a different green this time. Like I said, kind of important to vary your greens. Changing up the greens is going to make your piece look more realistic. So I'm just kind of turn my palette there so you can see it. I'm going for the lightest green now, and I'm using that fine line brush again, and I'm going to kind of follow the same pattern. So I'm gonna fill in the stems on this little clump. I'm gonna start by just kind of touching the base of that flower, and then I'm gonna carry a stem all the way through. Noticing where it kind of encounters this other flower, and I'm gonna have it go behind this big flower, which, like I said earlier, this big flower needs several more layers of paint, several more, some detail layers, and then just some more color. But I'm going to bring this stem, I'm imagining it comes all the way across here, and I'm just going to have it go straight across that stem that I've already painted there. Just going to fill in some of that space. You can decide kind of in the moment, do you want it to go behind or in front of the stem? And then I'm just going to come back up and add a few more. So I'm going to paint just a little bit of green here at the base of these flowers, and then connect those with just a real fine line stem. Some of them are already kind of connected, so they may not need anything, but it's kind of worth your time. It's valuable time spent to, just add those little details. It'll make the piece kind of that much more visually interesting. So just kind of painting. All right, I'm gonna switch now to my slightly larger brush, and I'm looking at my kind of my composition of my piece. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, and I want to have something up in this space, probably several somethings, honestly. You can see just tiny little bits of green there. So I'm gonna mix up blue green is what I'm gonna mix up. I'll show you that. So I'm gonna use one of my darker greens here. Probably this green here in the middle, and I just want to touch some blue with that. So I want kind of a blue green, and I want it to be kind of a lighter blue green. So over here, I brought some of that green that I have that's in the middle, and I'm just kind of mixing up a little bit of blue green. I want this to be reasonably watered down, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna come up into this space here, and I'm just going to, I'm gonna start by creating a stem. So very little stem. Gonna imagine it's coming through all the way through the piece. Gonna end over here, and this is gonna be, I'm gonna just make like a little eucalyptus, little branch of eucalyptus. So I'm coming back, I'm adding a little more blue to my water. I'm gonna create just some round leaf shapes. I want them to be more round, and I don't want them to, they don't necessarily need to line up directly across from each other. but they should start smaller at the top of this branch and kind of get bigger as they come further down. Still feel like these leaves, for my taste, for the purpose of this painting that we're making, they're a little, the green is a little bit too green. So I'm just gonna, while I've got the brush wet and that space wet, I'm just gonna touch a little bit of light blue. Just kind of mix that into these guys. But I'm gonna imagine now, I'm gonna continue to look at my piece and notice how these leaves will come across, and I'm going to create more. So like in here, I feel like there's a space where I can kind of make a leaf. Noticing that it's going to go behind these flowers. I'm just going to kind of fill in that space with that leaf shape. And then, you know, maybe there's one over here. Now I'm just kind of painting around these flower shapes. Not worrying too much about whether I'm getting paint on these flowers, but just kind of filling in some more leaf shapes. All of this fill is kind of useful for the purpose of this, the grand scheme of this painting. So it's all just gonna, eventually we want to make it so that this canvas has very little white space, you know, empty space. So that guy's okay. I'm just gonna kind of touch this a little bit more so it doesn't look like a leaf inside a leaf. But yeah, that's good. So still using this kind of larger brush, I'm going to continue to come to and get some different colors of green and just bring those over to some of these other flowers. So like these guys, I'm making, you know, kind of some bases here, and gonna have this kind of just little stem extend there, another stem extend over here, and I'm just gonna add some thin leaves onto here. And again, this is all with that mindset of I might come back and add, I probably will come back and add some more layers of color, some just to give it a little bit more depth. This guy needs some stem coming off of it, so just keeping that mindset of I don't want to use the same greens again and again. So I'm going to bring this guy kind of a different green here, and going to change. So for this leaf, I'm going to kind of paint it just a little bit differently. Just again, because it's kind of visually interesting. I'm going to do kind of a bigger one here. Kind of keeping in that mindset of like, this is light, this is fun. We're not painting, you know, photorealistic images of flowers and leaves. So just going to continue that. And then I'm noticing this flower here needs a little bit of detail added to it. Needs that stem coming off of it. So I'm going to create that. I'm just going to kind of imagine that there's space here, and then bring that stem down. Bring that stem all the way through. Even if it looks like I'm kind of going in the same place, that's okay. Gonna add just a kind of a tiny little leaf there. Just kind of adding, you know, like I said, more details to this piece. This guy needs some sort of a connection. So just gonna kind of create a little bit of a base here for that guy. And I'm gonna notice, I feel like that stem's gonna come down in this direction. Gonna bring it all the way through. All right. So there's that guy. Done some stems and some leaves, making some nice little bouquets. I'm gonna continue, I'm gonna leave this piece and I'm gonna come back to it again tomorrow, show you just kind of the next couple of steps that I would do, where I'm going to add more layers of color to some of these flowers that need details. Here's an example, I would say. Again, it's not finished, but here's another example of like this flower here has got some of those more details that are going to start to make this look more visually interesting. You can see this guy's got some more. So yeah, this is kind of where we're going. I thank you all for joining me today. Hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Happy Friday, folks. And I'll see you again soon.